visionary new leader for state representative. Kind, compassionate, intellectual. I've known her for many years. She's a great friend, a great public servant. My guest today is our new first selectman, Lisa Heavner. Welcome to Office Hours.
Thanks,
with
John.
State Representative John Hampton. Welcome to the show. I'm delighted to start the new year with Lisa as our guest because she is a dynamic new leader for Simsbury. Brand new. How many weeks now?
Not so new.
Well, new to the job.
New to this job.
As first selectman, and of course we all know by now how you came to this, and we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you as our first selectman and a little bit about your background, which I know, of course, and how you're doing in your new job and the challenges that you face. But we met years ago when you were recruited to run on the Board of Selectmen, and it's been an amazing ride for you as you've evolved as a wonderful town leader, your own unique style. I always think of you as thoughtful, very deliberative, and a consensus builder on both sides of the aisle. I know as a selectman you champion not only school issues but senior issues and bridging the gap between the schools and our senior community, and that continues to be a focus for you. And let me ask you, did you ever think you'd be first selectman of the town of Simsbury?
I did not. I never thought I'd run for any office in the town of Simsbury.
And you were just here, moved here, what, decade ago maybe?
About 12 years ago, right?
Yeah, so you've had a meteoric rise through the ranks. I know you were...
An accidental rise,
accidental
perhaps.
rise. You started on the SPTC Council?
At the middle school, yes.
Okay. And you were
It's called the PTO there.
PTO, go ahead.
Yeah.
And you started there as president?
I did.
Okay.
I served for 2 years as president, the PTO. Actually, Susan Salina was president. She got put on the Board of Education. I filled her slot.
Okay. And then you were approached by our former first selectman, Mary Glassman, to run for the board. That's where I met you.
That's right.
Which was 2005 or
No,
7?
I think it was 8, 2009.
Because we run in odd years.
I think we ran in 9.
Okay. And we served on the Board of Selectmen together. And talk about your experience as a selectman, our experience, and some of your initial, what your expectations were and what the realities were as a selectman.
I didn't really have expectations about what it would be like to be on the Board of Selectmen because I hadn't thought about running. I knew that I'd have an opportunity to make Simsbury a little better than when we found it, and that proved to be possible working with you and Mary initially, and then with Shannon, and now with Chris. I think that's the great thing about running in local government is that you can make a difference in your community. Sometimes people think of individuals who are in politics as other, but when I go to civics classes at the high school, I say, well, you can still find me in the directory when my kids were at school. So we're just neighbors and friends trying to...
I think people think of us as, these, royalty or separate, but we all have families and lives and children, and we represent our constituencies, and we do make ourselves available, and we live through the same experiences of whether it's raising families or dealing with aging parents or looking for a job or going through hard times.
Right.
And I know you have a deep connection with your constituencies. You've always been open and transparent. And I know we both had the benefit of working with Mary Glassman, who really was a great example to both of us, I know, in terms of we came in with our own skill set, but Mary really set the table for consensus building, fiscal responsibility, and putting the town on a great chart. But you probably want to set your own agenda, and you have your own style. How is it different than Mary's?
Well, I guess to start, I'm a little bit more on time.
Yes, we both laugh that Mary could be schedulally challenged at times, and we say that with affection. But yes, you are always punctual, if not early,
Right.
to, yes.
That's probably the most
Yes.
surprising. I had to
Yes.
warn the staff.
And you're taller.
And I'm taller, right?
Yeah.
And I make a better apple pie than her.
Okay, that's true. I have had your apple pie. But I think you come in after someone who was enormously popular and did a great job.
Absolutely.
So you come in probably with the people saying, well, maybe she's not Mary. So, you probably have that kind of built into you. Then maybe it's like a substitute teacher. Do you feel like or do you feel like you've hit the ground running and you're making it your own?
Well, thankfully, like you were saying, you and I had the benefit of working with Mary
Yeah.
for over half a decade, and we both ran with Mary, so
Yeah.
we share similar values and goals for the town. We've had many, many discussions publicly about them, but also personally about what
Sure.
we care about. So I feel fortunate that I was able to step into a situation where I was very well prepared
Yeah,
because
you were.
because I had worked so closely with Mary. So
And we were both deputy.
right.
Which was enormously beneficial to me, and I know to you,
Right.
to hit the ground running. You served as deputy first selectman, and we were both chairman of public safety,
and personnel.
and during difficult times, during difficult financial times, during you rose to the occasion during the horrible storm of 2011, and a lot of the skills you learn in this job are pretty amazing on the job.
That's
We
right.
each come to our positions with our own unique experience, but who knew when you come into the door that you're going to be negotiating with unions and running a shelter and on one day and making sure that the roads are cleared at another day, and you're kind of on a dashboard of a big plane and there's all sorts of lights
That's right.
beeping, and you got to attend to all and make sure that the plane is running smoothly.
But there are that is true. That's all true. But I've been very fortunate that because our staff is so professional,
Great
that
staff, yeah.
that I was walking into a situation, and a lot because of the initiatives that Mary took and that we took on the personnel subcommittee, making sure we had a professional staff at town
Yeah.
hall. I was walking into a situation that didn't need to be fixed.
No.
So that is a wonderful situation to walk into, and I was also walking into a situation where I was aware of all the issues because I had worked so closely with Mary and on the Board of Selectmen. So I wasn't walking into an unknown, and I was walking into a very positive situation.
And by nature, you're very calm and cool and deliberative, and I've seen that already in terms of it's a stressful job, or it could be a stressful job. And what are you initially working on now that you're in the door? It must be the budget time. We're all talking about the budget at the state level. Is that your major focus?
Well, it was until we had 3 major storms.
Yes.
So I did focus on those a little bit these last few weeks. And just kudos to our Public Works Department
yeah.
and our police, who are so well prepared in our Public Safety Committee. So that went seamlessly, thankfully, because we were so well prepared. But that did divert a little bit of my time. But you're right, the main focus right now is budget. I've
Yeah.
begun meeting with department heads, going through budget line by line. It's, a long process. I just had a staff meeting actually with some of my staff, and the one thing I said to them is nobody asked for anything that was unreasonable. All the requests, they're very professional. All the requests are what they think they need, and if you look at the requests, they all make sense. The challenge is that we can't always afford what we need or what we want. So it's trying to balance the needs to run a smooth, effective government with what our residents can afford, and that's always the challenge.
Yeah, and Simsbury traditionally has, through your leadership and Mary's, has done well with reining in spending, but it's a difficult economic time still, and at the state level we're about to hear the governor's budget, and we're making sure, hopefully, that municipalities are held harmless as best as we can, because we certainly haven't we've rounded a corner a little bit on the economy, but we still haven't bounced back completely. So I know the times are tight. So
Well, that's what we're seeing locally. Our unemployment numbers are looking good locally for Simsbury, but our grand list growth is not as strong as we'd like it to be, although we expect that to improve because we do have a lot of projects that have been approved but are not yet being constructed. So we're optimistic about that going forward. But you're right, there's some uncertainty about what the governor's going to do with his budget, and the reason why that impacts us so much is anything the governor doesn't fund will have to be made up by taxpayers, and that goes to the property tax and the grand list. And the thing I find most frustrating about that is it's a very regressive way to think about
It is.
taxes because, as you know, property taxes don't really take into account how much income you're making. So if you lost your job, property taxes don't care.
Sure.
If you're a senior living on a fixed income, property taxes don't care. You pay the same amount. It's what your house is valued at. So that's frustrating. I know you're doing a great job at the Capitol, and because of your experience in local government, you're aware of how
Yeah,
those
very
decisions
sensitive,
impact.
Sure, to the municipal issues. Yeah, being a former selectman, and we have to protect our municipalities and all the great things that Simsbury has. We have great resources, the police and
Right.
our senior and social service support programs. And speaking of difficult times, I know you spearheaded a really amazing initiative called Community for Care. Talk about that. That's really important for folks to know about.
Sure, and John, you were able to come to our
Yes,
last meeting,
it was
and
incredible.
we pulled together a bunch of people from the community, the town, and the schools to talk about issues of mental health and substance abuse. And the reason why we felt it was important to do a community-wide commission on this, as opposed to just the schools, is that oftentimes people think, well, there's just a drug problem at the schools.
Sure.
When in fact, most drug use happens outside of school hours. And a lot of drug and substance abuse are often self-medication for perhaps a mental illness or challenge that someone's dealing with. So we wanted to make sure that our community was looking at this as a community problem, not just a school problem, not just a police problem, not just a social service problem, not just a parent problem, but all our problem, and look to all of us for the solution and supports. So we brought together, I think it's hard not to be impressed by that group, right?
A lot of experts from public safety to school representative, mental health professionals. You had some state officials in there, somebody from DEMIS,
Right.
some really powerful players, but really connecting the dots on our mental health system because people think, well, it's still a stigma of an issue. And of course, people think, well, nothing bad happens in Simsbury. Well, things happen to everybody. Cancer, mental illness,
Right.
depression affects those in the suburbs or anywhere else, and it goes across all ethnicities and demographics of, it doesn't depend on income or anything else. And you and I have both seen people in the community who've lost their jobs and homes who've actually lost their lives or have plummeted into depression. And so we're really seeing a crisis in mental health. And I think it's great that Simsbury once again is being a leader in addressing that issue.
Yeah, one of the things we found in talking with everyone in the community, it wasn't that we weren't doing things for mental health, but we weren't communicating what
Talking
we're
to
doing.
each other,
We were,
yeah.
and our left hand wasn't talking to our right, and we didn't know which services were available and what were the appropriate services. So one of the top priorities of the committees is to communicate better with the public, because what we found in the schools is that if a child was struggling either with addiction or mental health, parents were reluctant to go to the schools because of the stigma, but they didn't
Yeah.
know where else to go. So we're working on doing a website where people can
Yes.
go to. We did a Community for Care booklet for parents.
great
It has
resource.
local resources in it. And they're also starting to work on a newsletter to push out information. The other thing we've done is we've done presentations to the committee, which we put on SCTV, so that parents can watch and learn about what's out there in the drug community. Our school resource officers presented what's out there so parents know what to look for, because the theory is you can't stop what you don't know.
And there's always something new out there.
That's right. And,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't be scared about it, but you need to be knowledgeable so that you can deal with it. And we had Captain Bolter and Heather Madano, and I talked with Dominique Avery
Yes, saw that show. It's great.
about heroin addiction.
Yeah.
And what the Community for Care is doing, and how do you, as a parent who has had a child who's been addicted,
It's a real problem.
how do you react to it? It's no more a problem in Simsbury than it is across the nation, but we're
Yeah.
not immune from it either. So as you look for solutions, I think you made a great point about it. Drug addiction, substance abuse, and mental
Doesn't
health
discriminate.
doesn't discriminate.
Yeah, it's well, that's one of the many great initiatives that you've undertaken, and I know near and dear to your heart are senior issues, and I know a big issue right now is the senior center, and you're moving that forward, and And where are we in that process?
Well, it's been evaluated over the last 4 years, and we're grateful to the committees that have worked on it, including public building and the
Yep.
subcommittee that has been evaluating and studying it over time. What we did a few weeks ago is I asked our town staff to put together sort of a summary of where we are. And they did a presentation on the 2 sites that we think are left under consideration, which are renovation of Eno, either a full renovation or some sort of partial renovation, or at the state lot site behind the Bank of America.
That's right.
Because thanks to you and Linda Schofield
Yeah.
and Mary, the town has an option of purchasing that
Correct.
site either for municipal purposes, or if we wanted to, we could purchase it and sell it to a developer for economic development purposes. But it's a wonderful opportunity to sort of explore that option.
And maybe build up that area back there to make it more, maybe like Blueback Square, or more, retail and mixed use.
Well, mixed use. So it'd be
Mixed use.
apartments, retail, walkable, livable.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at sort of the charrette planning we did
Sure.
when we had 500 people participate, we had a consensus around what we want the downtown to look like, and would the senior center be compatible in that area, and could it be a spur to economic development around that area? And of course it could. So we have a hearing on the 17th, which will be at Eno, where we're going to hear from the public, ask the public to give us their final thoughts on it, and then hopefully we'll move to a decision. We do have it scheduled in our capital improvement budget to be funded this next year, but I need to have a site and a number so that we know exactly how to fund it. So we're moving closer to that resolution, and I'm looking forward to hearing what our seniors think about it. We know that Eno has some obstacles to it, parking.
Sure.
They're worried that there will never be enough parking to accommodate the growing need of seniors here, and complying with the disability laws are a challenge in a historic building.
Well, to your credit, and that's been your hallmark of being deliberative and thoughtful, but also being enormously sensitive to the senior community, that you're taking this process very carefully and strategically. It's really important, and our seniors deserve the best.
They do.
They do. And I told somebody one day, it's not a special interest group. It's the great equalizer. It happens to us all.
Right.
It's not a rare tropical disease. And we are facing of course, you and I aren't aging, but other people are.
We are not.
But
yes.
it's a compelling issue, and we're going to have a boon in the next 10, 20 years that we have to be ready for in the nation and in the state and in our community. So I applaud you for that.
And thank you for your work on that. I know that has been an issue
Yeah,
we've worked
absolutely.
on.
It's a fascinating issue, and our seniors really are the rock of our
And
town.
you've been able to help give us options with the state lot site, and so we're appreciative
Oh,
of that.
absolutely. And we worked together on getting some funding for the design, some state bonding, and that's exciting. Now, tell me what your management style's like.
Oh, you know what my
Come
management
on,
is.
I'll tell the people at home.
I like to think I'm a consensus builder.
Yeah.
That I try and hear from everyone, make sure everyone, sometimes when you're at a table, there are some people who sit back and they may not say
Yeah.
something, so I do make a point of reaching out to make sure I've heard from everyone who's at a meeting,
Yep.
and reach out to them. I would say that. It's consensus building. Hopefully it's thoughtful
Yeah.
and fact-based, that we don't just shoot from the hip.
Are you getting a lot of people that say, gosh, well, Mary used to do this, or Mary did that, or it's like a substitute teacher? Do you get much that yet? Or
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, people have been actually, both staff and the community have been so supportive of me. All I get
Yeah.
is thank yous and can I help you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a real testament to what a great community this is.
And of course, you and I, none of us shy away from our service with Mary and her leadership, because she did do such a great job and taught us well, really prepared
Right.
us. As I know she's a mentor to you and to me. And but I think it's great that you're making this job your own, and will make this job your own, and how deeply connected you are to your constituents. You've always been, and you and I have knocked many doors in this community and have many opportunities for office hours. I know you had an open house. Or
We did.
Did it Did you cancel because of the
didn't.
snow?
We did not.
You kept
But
it-
not that many people came. But I will be scheduling another one in the
And
next
you
couple of
always
weeks.
meet with people. and-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Happy to, as do you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
In the next few weeks, you'll be doing budget workshops,
Mm-hmm.
so people can attend those, right?
absolutely. We
And
want to hear
watch.
from people. Email me. I've had a lot of people email me about the senior center. Love to receive those comments.
Great.
The more, because as you know, we all see the world from where we sit, so the more perspective we get, the better decisions we're able to make.
Do you, what was the biggest surprise when you came in the door?
The biggest surprise?
Yeah, as first selectman. And yeah, I know there weren't too many, but you know, being a selectman versus first selectman is different, obviously. And what was the,
Well, I always knew it was a hectic schedule.
yeah,
And walking in right in the middle of budget process and the amount of people who wanted to meet with me,
Yeah.
being new, made it, just scheduling was my biggest challenge.
Sure.
Just trying to, and I finally had to, Joanne, who works in our main office, I finally said, Joanne, we got to put in breaks so that I can have lunch, because I wasn't eating lunch.
yes, so you won't pass out.
Right, so you have to schedule things like that. It was a good problem to have because so many people were reaching out, and I love hearing, like you said, hearing from people.
Yeah.
But that was the initial challenge, was just figuring out how to get in everything that I need to get in during the day.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I experience this too. I think that, you know, people count on their public officials, but sometimes they'll come to you with a state problem,
Right.
or me with a local problem, and we're sharing information, or I pass on something to Congressman Esty on an immigration issue. And,
Right.
It's amazing how, in Simsbury, constituents are very engaged, which is great.
They
You know,
are.
I have other legislators, colleagues of mine, who hardly hear from their residents, but you know, I get, which is great, 20 emails a day and calls and really incredible perspective you
With
get.
great substance,
Yes.
substantive questions. You know, I was telling someone in another district that I've gotten questions about the pension investment assumption rate, and they're like, "What?" And I said, "Yes, door knocking. John and
Yeah.
I have had those questions, and then people are shocked at how informed the
Oh,
community is, and I think that's very inspiring."
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I met a woman this summer, door knocking, who came here from Massachusetts, and she's has a child with a rare disease, and she wants me to craft, which I have crafted legislation that there's about 1,000 rare diseases in the community that would cover insurance cover these rare diseases, and you get some of your best ideas from contact with the people you serve because they're living it. As you said, they're living their own unique experience. But I think you and I both love public service and serving people and embrace the challenges, and I know you like being out, and I bet you get invited more places now, or you've been out to a lot of events, and you find
Yeah,
yourself,
of course.
but
And
you and I
you-
see each other at a lot of different functions.
And that's
you
always lovely because
yeah.
our community is so active, and it's so wonderful to support the initiatives that are out there. I was just at the captain of the wrestling team invited me to their
Nice.
match last night, so I got to see my
that's
first
great.
wrestling match, and it was against Farmington. So that's a crazy sport.
And we see each other at scouting events or chamber events, and you're doing great with I know reaching out to the other side of the aisle. You know, I think that, you know, after the events of the past few months, there was a lot of discord, but I think you've really kind of calmed things down and restored some calm and trust, and I think our constituents are grateful for the way you've performed
Well, thank you.
during all this under a lot
like,
of pressure.
Like you and I have talked about, the most important thing is to, if you stick to best practices, try and be open and transparent, and go through a process that is fair and open. That's a great start, and
Yeah.
I appreciate it that my colleagues on the other side have been supportive and kind.
Sure, and you seem on a great track and trying to juggle a lot of different things, whether it's the budget. I know you've been working on open space initiatives, trying to manage our open space parcels in a better fashion, and your job involves dealing with public safety issues, I know, and you used to be chairman of personnel, so you're dealing with personnel issues. your head could spin.
Right.
And I'm wondering why it's not spinning now. But you enjoy the job.
I enjoy it because you're working with wonderful people. The staff is so professional for a wonderful community. The community could not have been kinder and more supportive of me.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you and I know, we know a lot of people in the community, and we love them.
Yeah.
And so it's our pleasure to serve and just try and do our part,
Yeah.
as so many volunteers do in our community. I mean, I just look at us as cogs in the volunteer wheel. There are so many out there that are doing wonderful things, and we try and support them.
Is there a philosophy, religious or otherwise, that drives you towards service? Any thing that you lean on?
Well, I guess it would be my parents. They have always, my father was in public service his whole life. My mother was a social worker and a teacher. And they were great fans of, John F. Kennedy.
Sure.
And in our house, we had the bust of JFK, which says, "Ask not what
Sure.
your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And that's a value they emphasized to my brother and I always. It wasn't, what are you going to do when you grow up? It was, how are you going to serve?
Sure.
And so that's just been something I've grown up with and something I care deeply about.
Yeah, well, it shows. And I know I'm grateful to have you as my first selectman, and I know the town of Simsbury is really fortunate to have you as our new first selectman. And you're going to do a great job and continue. I look forward to continuing to work with you. You and I have a great personal relationship, but a great, as a legislator, it's so important to have a good, strong relationship with your municipality.
Absolutely.
And we're on the phone all the time, if not in person, talking about issues that really affect our constituents. And I know that folks can call on us, and we'll put our information up, and email us at any time to talk about any issue. A lot of people are afraid to come to meetings, don't like public settings, and I know sometimes you'll meet with people with coffee, and we'll do it together to talk about issues of concern, whether it's their sewer or,
Right.
We get calls about, I got a call this summer about bats pooping on somebody's doorstep.
Oh,
And, so
I haven't had that yet.
Yeah, I'll forward that one to you. But that's our job as public servants, is to represent and to take care of our 23,000 residents in this wonderful community. So I thank folks for watching, joining us today, and I thank our new first selectman, Lisa L. Heavner. Congratulations, good luck with the budget session, and please come back on the show. I know from six months from now you'll be even better and stronger and doing wonderful things for the town. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again on another episode. Take care.
thanks, John.
Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.